Recording.
And all I have to do is actually be here, but he says keep the door closed, but I'm going to open it so I'm in the fresh air. If you have your own carbon monoxide monitor, you know how to use it. You guys do not have your own. Okay, this one you press down for 3 seconds, and then there's a 10-second countdown on this. There's no light on this, but there's a 10-second countdown to where it becomes calibrated. And at the end of 10 seconds, boom, I'm calibrated, and it says 0 parts per million outside. Okay, I'm going to go straight through the gated item. Correctly test and interpret ambient CO in one floor with WRT means with reference to, outdoors. You would normally wait because I opened the door, and so I've shared air with inside and outside, but for purposes of this test, we're going to go right ahead and do it. But you do have to close this door, because otherwise you're just measuring outside carbon monoxide. So I'm on one floor, and I'm walking through. I got zero, and if there's any combustion appliances, they would be downstairs. I don't know that yet, because I have to play like this is the first time that I've walked into this house. So I'm going to go over here, and there's a basement. I'm going to see what that is. It's 0 carbon monoxide. So I have satisfied that gated item that says correctly test and interpret. That means 0 is fine. If it hit 9, I would get nervous. If it hit 9, I would have to determine what the source of that carbon monoxide was. Okay, identify or discuss 3 possible sources of ambient CO in the home. Well, there's a pellet stove. And so if that backdrafts, that's a source of carbon monoxide. When I walked through in the living room, I saw a wood stove.
Yeah.
And the wood stove is a possible source of carbon monoxide if it were to backdraft.
Yeah.
They have an electric oven, an electric cooktop, so that's not a source of carbon monoxide, but some homes would. I'm going to go down here to find out if there's a utility room. I got one here. Yeah, okay. So I see that there is, looks like, tracing that oil line around, this looks like an oil furnace in the back with a air conditioner. The air conditioner system is running right now. It's obviously the middle of July. So there's 3 possible sources of carbon monoxide. A 4th would have been the old oil-fired water heater, but you can see that they disconnected the oil line from the old water heater, and now they have, looks like a heat pump water heater. Okay. Looking down my list, locate 1 smoke detector and determine mode of operation. I see one right here, actually. And full disclosure, it is battery operated. They would have never wired a house for hardwired smoke detectors in the 50s. So these are all battery operated. There is no test button. I could take it loose and see the battery in there, but every time I do that, they notify the fire department. He's got them wired up to where the fire department is notified. Walking through, nobody's ever found a CO detector. So that's should have one. All right, identify or discuss 2 sources of lead and the procedure to confirm its presence. Okay, so this house, I'll tell you, is built in 1978.
So lead's on.
And so you could possibly have some lead paint. Now, it doesn't look like, this looks like flat latex paint, because most lead paint was at least semi-gloss. It was an enamel. Now, there could be some paint in the house, and it's encapsulated with latex. God bless you. And so we're going to find out if there was lead paint. It would be a concern if it were peeling or flaking, or like, for example, this painted windowsill here. If I could see white dust on my fingers, I'd say, well, I want to have that tested to find out if that's lead paint or not. Another source of lead could be the fact that these copper pipes are from the 50s. The house was built in 1955, and you can see that there is some solder. This is an old pipe. And you see the solder at the joints.
Yeah.
And that solder was 50-50 solder, which would mean 50% lead and 50% tin. So that could be a source of lead in the drinking water, especially if the quality of the water became acidic or the pH got lower, it would start to leach the lead out of the water. Procedure to confirm the presence of lead paint, you have to have a certified lead renovator on board, somebody who has taken the 8-hour EPA course. And that would be, if in your own house, they sell 3M lead check kits, so you could test the lead in your own house. But if you're doing it professionally, you got to be a certified CLR. All right, discuss 2 sources of asbestos and when it becomes hazardous. Now, I don't see any asbestos down in here. Usually it's in the utility room, and usually it's duct insulation. It's like a white cottony substance that would be on the outside of the ducts. Typically, okay, that looks like you have ducts running through here because this looks like a crawl space. And so in the 50s, they would have insulated the ducts because they're outside the envelope. But looking at what I'm seeing here, whoa, there's a crawl space. Also, no vapor barrier. I don't see a vapor barrier on the floor, and I don't see any insulation up in the floor joist, and there's no insulation on the ductwork. So that's where I would find it. I would find asbestos insulation on the ductwork. I would find asbestos insulation on a boiler pipe. I would find 9x9 vinyl asbestos tiles. I could see if there were siding on the outside. I've seen a lot of asbestos fiber, asbestos shingle siding, asbestos in my popcorn ceiling, but I don't see any of those things here. All right, so that's that. I'm gonna leave that open for a while. What did I do with my checklist? Oh, there it is, thank you. All right, so now I'm going to check off these things as I go. Now I'm going down the list. I don't have to because some of the things I don't be walking in and outside too many times. In and outside. So discuss 2 sources of mold. Identify or discuss 2 locations of mold and conditions necessary for growth.
Seems like a shower.
Okay, yeah, so I have to have an organic material for them to feed off of. I have to have moisture, and I have to have oxygen and mold spores. So looking what I saw here, that's moisture, but I don't see anything that looks like a black dust or anything else. That's moisture coming from the soil underneath the crawl space and peeling off the drywall and the paint. But it doesn't look like, but that would be a typical location for mold because the mold would feed off that if that was latex paint and the paper on the drywall surface. Another place that I would look would be in a bathroom or a shower, below grade. But if you look here, I'm seeing some nasty looking discoloration along the baseboard, along the floor, and up the wall. Now that could be water stains, but it could also be, it's a discoloration on the foundation wall. That could be paint. I mean, that could be mold spores. Another thing, since I'm down here, I was walking around outside and I saw a brick. Now, due to the fact that I didn't see any headers going through, that told me that maybe brick veneer and not solid masonry. But based on history, 1955, they weren't doing brick veneer. So also I can look up in here, it's hard to see because there's no light in here, but if you notice, there's no band joist on here. In other words, if this was a frame house, brick veneer, there would be a horizontal board tying together these floor joists. But if you notice, they're set into block. They're set into joist pockets. So I know that this is a solid masonry house, even though there are no headers outside. It's probably steel tied, like the block and the brick. So notice that that block up there is probably 4 inches inset. So that tells me that this foundation is a 12-inch block, and then the actual wall, the exterior wall, is 4 inches worth of block and 4 inches worth of brick, and that's an 8-inch wall, and that's your 4-inch lip that's sticking in on the inside. So I saw that while I'm down here. I'm going ahead, so I could check off, identify the construction type of the building. I know it's solid masonry. All right, and I could talk about one other type while I'm here to check that off, and that would be a frame building. There's 2 types of frames, balloon framing, which did not have band joists, plates, it just or any type of, it just had ledgers where they sistered studs. The stud was the main framing member of balloon framing. They would sister the joist and the rafter to the stud. But this is not balloon framed, and obviously it's not platform framed either. Platform frame came in after World War II, and that would be the key there. You would see probably siding on the outside, vinyl siding, asbestos shingle, wood siding, hardy plank, whatever, or brick veneer. That's still not the structure of the wall would be platform framed. Okay, let's keep going back up to general safety. Identify the 2 locations of mold, obviously along the baseboard there. I would also be looking upstairs in the bathrooms and in the kitchen, maybe the kitchen cabinets underneath for like a plumbing leak. So I'll look down here in underneath the cabinet. Sometimes you see mold growing on the surface down here because there's a plumbing leak. Sometimes in these bathrooms, you're going to see mildew growing on the mold. Mold growing and mildew on the grout. In between the tile sections, it looks pretty clean. Sometimes you see mold and mildew growing on the floor. It looks pretty clean. So I don't see anything that looks like mold, but that's typically where you'd find it. And those are the conditions necessary for growth. Identify or discuss 2 possible radon entry points. When we were downstairs in the basement, you noticed that there were some cracks in the slab. I didn't point them out, but I saw them. You saw the cracks in the slab, and you saw there was a sump pit down there, an open sump pump with a pit. And so those are possible radon entry points. Walking around the house, driving up here, I did not see a radon mitigation system. So I'm not saying they don't have a radon problem. I'm just saying that I would have to check and see if they've had a test. I don't see a mitigation system. Okay, measure hot water tap temperature and evaluate the safety implications. Okay, what I'm looking for, this takes, I'm probably going to go to the bathroom. You really need something over 115 degrees. Below 115 degrees, you're going to get microbial growth. And above 120 degrees, you can scald yourself. You can get 2nd-degree burns if you're in contact with 120-degree water for more than 10 seconds. Got the temperature here, my thermometer here, and I'm going to want to, there's some standby loss here. It's taking a while for that water to come up. So the implications would be, if it's too cool, below 115 degrees, we can get, particularly I'm worried about Legionella bacteria, which forms a Legionnaire's disease. Over 120 degrees and you've got little small children in the house, we could have some scalding activity going on. This is like, if they're taking a shower in here, they're going to be waiting a while for the hot water. Here it comes. Okay, so just looking at what I have, there goes the temperature. I'm wanting it to get above 115, and I'm wanting it to stay below 120. Yeah, there we go.
Keep going. The water here is set to 130, so it should get to 130 downstairs.
I looked at that heat pump water heater down there. It said 130 on the digital display. So I think we're going to get 115. And it's starting to slow down. So I don't think it's going to get much hotter than 115. So if he has 130 set, yeah, he has 130 set on his thermostat down on the water heater, he's got a hell of a standby loss. Which means that it makes the minimum, but it probably is not any hotter than that. What that means is he's got a hell of a standby loss, and we probably need to insulate those pipes to retain some of that heat so that we don't, again, I'm walking around like an idiot dropping my,
Dave, you're not an idiot.
my clipboard. Left downstairs, oh, back over here, okay. All right, thank you. All right, so we're, discuss presence of one building electrical hazard. Well, when I was downstairs, I saw some unshielded non-metallic cable coming down the wall. You cannot have exposed non-metallic cable coming down a wall anywhere. It has to be either in conduit or behind drywall. I'm noticing here that in this kitchen, I don't see any GFIs. And I could check the breaker panel, but there are no GFI breakers in there either. Sometimes you have breaker protection on the outlets, which means you don't need a GFI outlet, but more often than not, you're going to see a GFI outlet, at least 2 of them in a kitchen. Current electrical code requires 2 circuits, 2 20-amp circuits in the kitchen, and each one of them has to be GFI protected. We don't have that. That's a building electrical hazard. Identify or discuss the presence of one building fire hazard. Okay, there's a couple of things. Number 1, a fire hazard would be if you don't have a smoke alarm in every bedroom. I see a smoke alarm in the hallway, but I don't see a smoke alarm in the bedroom. Another thing is you need 2 means of egress in every bedroom. So what they did here, it looks like when they put on an attached garage, they blocked off this window. And so whoever's sleeping in this room only has 1 means of egress. So if there's a fire out here in the hallway, this person is SOL, seriously out of luck. And so that is a fire hazard. That there's several of them around here, but these are the 2 egregious ones I see. A lack of smoke alarms in the bedrooms. And now here's an example of maybe they encapsulated the paint on the wall, but here's old semi-gloss enamel. So that may be original lead paint from the 50s. As long as I don't cut into it, I don't have to have it tested. But sometimes we do cut in when we're dense packing insulation or whatever, and in that case we would have to test it, and the CLR would have to do that. Okay, fuel oil delivery. I'm going to go outside and calibrate my, it says VOC, that's volatile organic compound, PID, photoionization detector, or your, this is CGD, combustible gas detector, and here it is right here. I have to have a combustible gas detector capable of a readout of LEL. That's lower explosive limit. Reason being is that we could blow up the house if the lower explosive limit was reached. I'm going to turn this on, calibrating it outside, and this does have, this says propane, but really it's set for gas. 5% is where it's going to alarm. 5% of the atmosphere is the lower explosive limit of methane. Now, I don't have an oil setting on this, but I do know that 1% is the lower explosive limit of oil. So, as you see, it's calibrating. This will give me, when it comes back down to calibration, this will give me either a percentage of the atmosphere readout or a parts per million readout. If it's a parts per million readout, I want no more than 1/10 or 10% of LEL. So at 1% of the atmosphere, that would be 10,000 parts per million. You can do the math if you don't trust me. 1% of a million is 10,000. So 10% of that would be 1,000 parts per million. But I have 0%, 0.0. I do not want 0.1%. So another gated item, once I have this calibrated, and I'm looking at my lower explosive limit, which is 0.0%. If I hit 0.1, because this is oil, then I have a concern. This is 0.0. I do need to, because oil is heavier than air, all that oil would permeate downstairs right here. and I don't see any. That you could smell the oil, and even at 1.1%, you could smell it, and I look pretty good. I'm in good shape. Okay, so that's the lower explosive limit that I've satisfied that criterion. All right. Conduct an ANSI BPI 1200 fuel oil system inspection and identify any deficiencies. All right, we're going to go back downstairs. Let me turn this back off to save the battery on this. And looks like they do have fuel oil. There's my, if you don't have this downloaded from the Dropbox, I will let you use my little clipboard here that has all the references you need for this field exam. So here's the fuel oil inspection checklist. Inspect the oil tank for historic or active leakage. It's hard to tell because of the clutter he's got down here, but looks like there's some garbage or some sludge down up underneath there. So that may be either active or historic, but it looks like leakage to me. Verify the presence of a shutoff at the tank and the appliances. Okay, if you get down here and look behind the clutter, you will see a little shutoff valve on the outside of that tank. The appliances, the old oil-fired water heater had a shutoff valve right here. And then obviously back here, I hate this house because the stuff should face out here, but I have a little light in here we can plug in. And I can see where the hell's the outlet? Somewhere up in here. All right, that's the condensate pump. There we go. And I'll plug the condensate pump back in. All right. So, as I see down there, there is a shutoff valve coming into this oil furnace, this oil burner. Okay. So it does have a shutoff valve. Verify the presence of a fill gauge on the tank. You see the fill gauge right to the fill, that's the fill pipe on the right, and that's the vent pipe on the left. Verify that the inside tanks are 5 feet from a burner. This is an inside tank. The other thing, you might have an outside tank, you might have an underground tank. This is an inside tank. It was probably in violation with the old water heater, because that looks like it's less than 5 feet from the old oil water heater. However, my furnace is more than 5 feet away from the burner is more than 5 feet away from the oil tank. Verify that the vent pipe is more than 5 feet from a flue gas outlet. The flue gas for this furnace is going to be into the chimney. As you see, the vent connector goes from the furnace up into the chimney, and you see the old oil-fired water heater was above that. It had a cap. It has a cap thimble now from when they took the old oil water heater out and put in a new heat pump water heater. So that's more than 5 feet. The vent pipe is outside there, and obviously that's more than 5 feet from the flue gas outlet. What you see sometimes is you can see a power vented oil furnace or a power vented boiler, and the vent would come out 5 feet away from the vent pipe, and that could lead to an explosive situation. When I go outside, I'm going to verify that my fill and vent pipes are properly capped. I inspect the oil lines for visible signs of leakage or kinks. It's hard to see with no lights down here, but the oil line for this one, that looks okay. I don't see any leaks around anything. I looked inside there. I didn't see any leaks on the floor, and I don't see any kinks in the lines. However, they're not protected from damage. Those lines are laying right out on the floor. He's piling ladders and tools and what have you, so something could be piled on top of that or fall and hit that and damage that flex, that's type L copper, which is the oil line. Okay, so that's my fuel oil inspection. I do have to finish the inspection when I go outside. All right, now discuss conduct simulated gas testing on plumbing pipes. Okay, so I really don't have anything to, oh, thank you. I don't have any gas pipes in here because it's all oil. So here's some plumbing pipes that I'm going to simulate a test. So in order to do that, I have to switch over from LEL mode to tick mode. Tick mode is B, the B button, and you can hear that's tick mode. Okay, 3 fittings. I find that if this were a gas system, you would get a lot of leakage from a shutoff valve because there's typically black pipe like what you see for the oil right there, and the black pipe into a threaded brass fitting, you have dissimilar metals, and you could have corrosion of the black iron pipe. So I'm going to go 1 inch per second around that fitting, top and bottom. I'm going to go, here's a T, I'm going to go 1 inch per second here. If I had a flex line, I would go 1 inch per second along the gas flex line because they, or propane, they do leak a lot at the flex lines. There's a T, and then here's a an elbow. I'll hit this, even though it's plastic, I'll simulate that that's a gas line. All right, so I have not found any leaks. What would be a suspected leak is if that tick rate elevated. That would tell me that there's a suspected leak. And then in that case, because the leak is suspect, I confirm it with some soap bubble solution wherever I found that suspected leak. And then if I got some bubbling up, the real egregious leaks would give you like a kid's soap bubble wand. You ever seen those wands that they put in the air and the bubble comes out? That would be a significant leak. A less significant leak, but still a reportable leak, would be if you see like little fizzies like from Alka-Seltzer. And then you would report that as a confirmed leak to the homeowner if it's a test in. A test in is your initial home performance energy audit. You should be also doing test outs after the work is done. So you have to do this exact same workup when you come back and do a test out. And if I find a leak on a test out, I go to the crew chief, whoever did the work, the weatherization work in the house, and say, dude, why didn't you report the gas leak originally? And they'll give you some BS like, oh, it must have stopped, it must have happened after we left. No, don't buy it. Your crew chief did not do the original, or the original auditor did not do the particular required work. So I'm done with this. I'm going to shut it off. The power button, I just save the battery, just hold that down for about 5 seconds, it'll go off. Okay, I'm done with that. Fuel delivery. That's the action to be taken when the gas leak is suspected. That's the action level for all. Okay, wait a minute. Identify or discuss 2 other steel pipe deficiencies. We don't have it there, so we have to discuss it. If this were steel pipe for gas lines, I'd want to make sure it was nice and supported. But you see, when it's loose like that, that is a deficiency. Another deficiency would be if this was steel pipe and you had a brass shutoff valve, which there are no steel shutoff valves, you would have to have a Teflonized pipe dope or Teflon tape on the threads to break the electrolysis between the dissimilar metals. That would be another deficiency. Another deficiency would be if they had a galvanized fitting. You see that a lot of times. They'll put a galvanized fitting in a black steel system. That's not that critical, but you could have the galvanization is like a zinc coating on the steel, and the zinc could flake off and get caught in your burner and flame impingement, create carbon monoxide. Flex line deficiencies. What I want to see, if they had a flex line, I would want to make sure they had a yellow sleeve on it, which means that it's approved corrugated stainless steel tubing. If it was an appliance connector, I got to make sure that they don't use CSST. They need a flexible appliance connector which has molded yellow seal all the way through, not just a plastic sleeve. Flex lines cannot be kinked. I see that sometimes they're kinked. And I also see that the flex lines, all flex lines have to be grounded because you could have a power surge or a lightning strike, and the first thing would happen, you blow a hole in a flex line.
That's a flex line right there, right?
Yeah, but that's not a flex gas line. We're talking about flex gas, you're right. That I took care of, I addressed that on the fuel oil inspection. Remember I said I didn't see any kinks in it, and I didn't see any leaks in it. But I like your question. Please, right. And when you're taking your test, I'm going to ask questions too. Like I'm the homeowner, I'm walking around with you, what do you mean? And I'm looking for flex lines, and you can say, what about that flex line? And it's a valid question, okay? So anything you don't understand what I'm saying, is I'm trying to educate you as a homeowner. All right, the action level for all fuel system deficiencies in accordance with ANSI is that if I see a deficiency, like I told the homeowner, hey, you got a galvanized fitting there, that shouldn't be there. They said, well, you change it. I'm not a licensed gas fitter. You have to refer all gas line deficiencies or oil deficiencies to a licensed gas fitter or oil mechanic. Okay, that's fuel oil delivery, 8 items. I took care of the gated items. The gated items are important. Let's review the 4 gated items you've had. You've had calibrate your personal detector outside, check and see what your levels are on one floor. See, we still have 0 here. And then calibrate this outside, which we did, and verify that we had a safe level, which we did. It never got above 0.0%. All right, let's go to building inspection. Evaluate the continuity and contiguity of the thermal envelope. While I'm here, the thermal envelope means the building pressure boundary and the building thermal boundary. Basically, in a box, you have congruent, means they touch each other. Even though there's no insulation here on the foundation, there should be. So right now, your pressure boundary and your thermal boundary in the foundation is that concrete block out there, that 12-inch block. You're going to say, how is that a thermal boundary? Well, concrete block does have an R value. It's not an insulator because, as I know from building science, anything above 2.5 R value per inch is considered a thermal retarder or a conductive retarder, which is sort of an insulator. Anything below 2.5 R value per inch is a transmitter of a conductive heat energy. So block has an R value of 0.4 per inch. So this is not any insulation, but it does present some R value, which is it's a deficient thermal boundary, but that's your thermal boundary. Let's take a look upstairs, and we'll see what the deal is. Hit my phone here. Got this we can put back upstairs. We're done with it.
I'm using the shade that doesn't.
All right,
I know he's going to.
it's strictly a box. So your thermal boundary is pretty much congruent with your pressure boundary, except on an exterior wall where they have like a kitchen soffit. Because typically what they'll do is they'll drywall the soffit first, or later after they frame it out, and that's your pressure boundary. However, your thermal boundary, because very rarely would there be any insulation in these solid masonry walls. The way they're constructed is there's 4-inch block on the inside, 4-inch block on the outside, 4-inch brick on the outside, and they put a little furring strip there. And there's no insulation between the furring strips. So the thermal boundary goes straight up, but then the pressure boundary comes out here. So it's a separated pressure boundary, and it's an incongruity. So that is a place where the thermal boundary is not contiguous. And so another place would be, or continuity, is I notice that I have a walk-up attic, because this separates the thermal envelope from the building envelope. The attic is outside the thermal envelope. These walls are contiguous with the stairwell, and so these are outside walls. They're exterior walls. They need to be air sealed and insulated the same way that your exterior walls are, but these are not. So that is a hole in the thermal boundary. And that's what I see in terms of the thermal envelope. But while I was down there, I saw that there was no insulation in that crawl space. That crawl space has to have insulation either up underneath between the floor joists or on the walls. Neither was present. So there should be at least a minimum of R19 if you're going to use bats in between the joists, or more typically when we encapsulate a crawl space, we're going to put at least R14 foam board on the outside of the walls. Okay, the foundation type, wait a minute, we're perimeter area and volume of the thermal envelope within 10% accuracy. I'm going to give you this little clipboard here. Now the figures may not be totally accurate, but this is just an academic exercise anyway. So we're going to say, okay, this is 5 Gunpowder Road. It was built in 1955. We already have established that. So it looks like you have 3 different types of foundations. You have a crawl space, which is on that end of the house. You have, looks like you have an old converted garage converted into a playroom and a laundry room that are on a slab. It's on that end of the house. And you have, the majority of the house is on a basement. Well, not the majority, but the preponderance of the foundation type of full basement is what we're standing over right here. So looking at these measurements, I've got 25 and 35 is 60, and 15 is 75 feet all the way across, 30 feet wide this way. And so the perimeter of the main building, I'm going to say, is 75 plus 30 plus 75 plus 30. So if I just take 75 in my head, I got 150. And if I take 60 in my head, I've got, 75 is 150, and 60, there's 210 feet in a perimeter around the outside of the building. If I'm looking at, let's see, and I do have my phone on airplane mode because we do not want any phone calls. We cannot phone a friend, and we cannot go to the internet. Okay, so looking at my calculator, man, if I knew how to use a phone, okay, looking at my calculator, I've got 75 by 30, so 75 by 30 gives me 2,250 square feet on this first floor. Now, part of the thermal envelope is also the basement. The crawl space is considered outside of the thermal envelope. The basement is in the envelope, so that basement is 30 by 35. So I got to remember, well, basically that should be, wait a minute, okay, 2250, clear that. 30 times 35 is equal to 1,050 square feet plus 2250. My total square footage is 3,300 square footage in the building. Now the volume of the building, which I'm going to need for my blower door to determine what my air changes per hour would be, and these are 8-foot ceilings. So I'm going to say, okay, yeah, I can see it's 16 feet from the top of the ceiling here to the bottom of the basement, so that's 8 foot all the way. So I'm just going to take 3,300 and multiply that by 8 feet. And there's the volume of my building. 26,400 cubic feet is the volume of my building. Okay, so we've taken care of that. Let's look at another bullet point here. Another bullet point is identify the building orientation and exposure regarding alternative energy sources. Okay, I'm going to want to go outside.
Did you shoulder that thing? Smack the shoulder.
You did?
Yeah, you did. You ran right into it.
Broke the day.
Dave the Wave.
All right. So,
Good.
I've got this compass right here. The compass app on my phone.
No,
I'm going to find out what that is. I'm hoping that this will boot up here in a second. Last minute details in the app. No, sorry about that. Sorry.
Your phone's not on airplane.
Yeah. No advertising in the app. I'm calibrating. Tilt the screen and roll the ball around the circle. Okay, it's calibrated. All right, give me some, this app is crazy.
Pretty sure it's
Somebody's got a compass app on their phone, right? Oh, here it goes.
Oh, that's northwest.
yeah, northwest.
Northwest?
Yeah.
Okay, so the front of the house is northwest, the back of the house faces southeast.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at feasibility. The reason I want to know that is later on I'm going to be checking out a window, but I want to find out what the feasibility of any type of alternative energy source would be. Now, if I was going to go with roof-mounted solar, I'm going to want a southwest exposure. So this is northwest, southeast, southwest would be that way. And the problem I see there is those trees. So in other words, a day like today, when the sun is right overhead there, I'm fine. My solar would be great on the roof. But as the sun goes that way, we're going to dive behind the trees and we're going to be blocking our solar panels. So if I did solar, it would have to be on, he's got enough land here that he can do geothermal, he can do a wind farm, he could do a solar farm on panels, and he can actually, the advantage of having it on panels is you can motorize them to follow the sun, what they call an azimuth installation. Okay, so the only thing that's out of the question on alternative energy would be roof-mounted solar panels. All right, so identify and evaluate 2 exterior bulk moisture control components. All right, so the roof is a bulk moisture control component. Looks like in good shape to me. I don't see any real holes in it. I don't see any brittle shingles or anything. The gutter system, the gutters have to slope a 1 inch and 10 feet down to the downspout. And just from spitballing this, it doesn't look like there's any kind of slope at all in those gutters, because I'm looking for the exposure from the bottom of the gutter to the fascia board, and I don't really see adequate slope. As far as the downspouts go, I want to see, ooh, big hole there. I want to see these downspouts dump the water at least 6 to 8 feet away from the foundation, so the water doesn't roll back up against the foundation, percolate down, and evaporate into the crawl space or into the basement.
What did you say about the gutters?
The gutters do not have proper slope as far as
Quarter
I'm
inch
looking
per
at it.
foot.
Quarter inch per foot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 10 inches per 10 feet or
Yeah,
whatever it is.
1 inch and 10
1
feet.
inch, 10 feet. Yeah, so quarter inch per foot is the
Yeah, and I don't see
standard.
it here.
So from the beginning to the downspout, you should see it slightly angled. So you'll be covering all the shingles, and then they'll be semi-exposed.
This
at the
looks like a
bottom.
40-foot gutter.
But it's a
so
long gutter with no
yeah, I
slope.
want to see more than
Pretty
one
flat.
downspout, because in order to get the right slope,
We got 2 on the exact same piece with the elbow. So it's flat, but you see we have a downspout on this side. We have a downspout on that side attached to the same gutter.
yeah,
So it could be center.
yeah.
Because it's a
If
long
you're going to
line.
use a 40-foot gutter, I'd have to dump the center of that gutter up 2 inches.
Yeah, it should be up.
Right. Okay, another bulk moisture component. Looks like they have a drain field in here, because I did see a grate. Somewhere along here, I saw a grate. Or am I losing it?
No, you're not losing.
Where's
You
the
already
grate?
lost
I've
it.
seen one.
I saw it before. So they had a drain field out here. Yeah, but all right, that would be a curtain drain, and a French drain field would be another bulk moisture component. But I already identified and evaluated 2. The foundation type, we saw there's 3. There's a full basement, there's a crawl space, and there's a slab on grade. Identify type, R value, and condition of the foundation insulation. We did, there is none. Identify existing attic ventilation type and discuss 2 performance limiting factors, or identify. Well, I have to go on the roof to see if there are any performance limiting factors. But right now, it looks like their attic ventilation is going to be a ridge vent. You see a continuous ridge vent up there. And looks like they have perforated soffit. So they've got plenty of perforated soffit. I would take the measurement of the overhang, because there is a calculation as to the proper amount of ventilation that the BA Pro in the office has to implement. But I have to give the BA Pro the information, how wide are the eaves and the soffits, and how continuous are they to provide the proper amount of intake ventilation. And I have to make sure that when I go upstairs, And I have seen roofers that do not put a slot or cut a slot for the ridge vent. They put a dummy ridge vent up and charge the customers for it. So I've got to measure the slot or the opening that has, if it's been cut in the attic. Okay, while I'm out here, well, we already looked at the type of the exterior window or the exterior wall. Where is that up in there? Yeah, but identify above grade exterior wall construction type and describe one other type. And this is solid masonry. What usually with solid masonry, with the 4-inch block on the inside, you're going to see 3 courses of brick per block, because block is 8 inches high. You would see another 3 courses. Then you would see a course. This is called a header, the end of the brick. You'd see the end of the brick all the way through every 7th course to tie it together. But since usually this type of arrangement is brick veneer. But because we saw that it is solid masonry with the joist pockets downstairs, this has to be tied together with steel. In other words, about every 7th or every 6th course, 2 courses of block, they put a little steel tie. It's called a ladder tie, and they put that on top of the brick in the block and tie it together with the mortar. So it is solid masonry, but it's very unusual, highly unusual for the 50s. That would have been a masonry tied wall instead of a steel tied wall. Okay, I'm coming back in. And safely measure the wall cavity depth to determine the feasibility of adding insulation. So typically, we do not have any kind of wall insulation in these solid masonry houses. But I'm going to verify that. There's a little hole on the side of the electrical box, and I've taken this plate off. I'm going right on in there, and I'm hitting block. I'm hitting concrete block, and pulling that out. There's that much the cavity depth. Now you've got tile. You've got probably a 3/4 inch worth of plaster, because this is probably the old surface. It might be drywall, but either way, there's tile over the top of it. So tile and drywall, and then a 3/4 furring strip, and that's what I hit in there. So you only have a 3/4 cavity in between the back of the drywall and the block wall. There's no way you can insulate that. So typically we see in a frame wall, we're going to see, at least in the 50s, would have been like cotton in a black bag, but you couldn't fit that in a solid masonry cavity. In a frame wall, starting in the middle 60s, early 60s, you had R11 fiberglass. By that time, Owens Corning had invented fiberglass, and you could put a vapor retarder on that, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So identify the type, R value, and condition of above grade exterior wall insulation. Nada. There is none. Identify existing ventilation type. We did that. Identify roof frame attic components and determine dimensions of framing members. Let's go upstairs in the attic. Oh, thank you, Nick. Well, no, okay. I think we can get up here. Okay, these are the walls I was talking about that should be insulated because they're adjacent to the house. So in effect, these are exterior walls within the house because they're framing out the attic. Okay, we can get up here. Okay, watch your step. I'm hoping we can get out. Christ. Okay. So what I'm looking at, I'm looking at it is not a truss roof. It is a conventionally framed roof. Looks like you got 2x8 rafters. You got collar ties across to tie the rafters together because that's a rather long span for, well, 2x6. It's not 2x8. They're a rather long span for a 2x6 rafter. So they put the collar ties in. Does not look. Luckily, I can see the cavity through here, but I can't verify the fact that there's a ridge. Wait a minute. Is there a slot there? This is the rafter. It's a 2x6. You got a 2x8 ridge board, so that's conventionally framed. You don't have a ridge board with a truss. And if without having, oh, I got my flashlight. I want to see if there's that compass is still calibrating. It ain't worth a damn. Okay, here's my flashlight. No, they did not cut. So somebody gave them a dummy ridge vent and did not cut a slot in there.
Fucking retard.
Yeah, that's more off. As a home inspector, have you seen that?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's an unscrupulous.
I believe that's the slot started to the left of that one.
Oh, there is one.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we got to
I would
measure.
say there is
If
one.
I could see both sides of the ridge, then I would try to measure and determine what that is.
It just
Yeah, okay, I
doesn't
see the
span
slot
the
there.
entire
So if
width
that
of the ridge.
looks like it's a inch, maybe an inch and a quarter this way from the ridge. So if it's the same thing on the other side, it'd be a 2.5-inch slot. Okay. Very good, sir. I couldn't see that from my vantage point for where I was. All right. So performance limiting factors. A performance limiting factor would be if they didn't cut the slot, right? Another performance limiting factor would be if they did not, because if this old soffit was probably plywood, and they would have to have removed the plywood. And so what I would want to do if I could get up there, I'd want to look and see if I could see light coming up from those baffles, from the perforations in the soffit. And then if I couldn't see light coming up, I know that that was a performance limiting factor because they did not allow the perforated soffit to operate properly. The insulation, I'm going to look right here and see if there's any insulation between the, okay, I'm looking up here and I do see, if I can get my hand in there, yeah, I see a bat, and the bat has a foil cover on it. If you can get up there and look and see that there's a bat with a foil cover on it, I don't know, it looks to me like the foil cover is turned down, which would be a vapor, if it's not perforated, aluminum covered bat is a vapor barrier. Oh, and then I'm looking in here, that's just in one spot. In the rest of the cavity in here is nothing. So there's sporadic insulation that's put in, and it's got a vapor barrier that's turned the wrong way. All right, I saw baffles up there in the corner, and so nobody has added any insulation. So the only insulation I could see was a singular piece of bat, which has probably a value of R19 if it's 6 inches in thickness, and there's a aluminum facing on it, which was common in the 60s. They got away from that because the aluminum was a vapor barrier, and you could trap condensation if that were to occur. So, yeah, the condition is pretty much terrible. Explain when water vapor must be blocked, controlled, or transmitted. And we just told you that we do not want to block the water vapor in a ceiling. We want to control it. And the way they would control vapor barrier from going up in the attic, because humid air does rise and the humidity would go through solid material, which is diffusion. Notice that the original ceilings were painted with semi-gloss enamel, and the semi-gloss enamel is a class 3 vapor retarder, which controls the amount of humidity that can go up. In terms of blocking vapor, we do need impermeable plastic on the floor of that crawl space. We didn't see any. So that's typically a minimum of 6 mil, which is 6/1000ths of an inch plastic, and it's not in the crawl space. And we do want to block water vapor below grade because that is a big source of water vapor in all months, particularly in the winter, to fill up the house with water vapor. And so we want to block it below grade. We want to transmit it here on the middle side, so that's why they use like Tyvek or house wrap, because it's a vapor transmitter. It blocks water, it blocks air, but it allows vapor to go through. You can also control it. So In a frame house, I'll have craft paper facing on insulation, and I want that craft paper to face inside. I want it to face the living space. That's a control of vapor, water vapor. But in all cases, it's a good idea at the wall level here to transmit it, let it go. Never stop it, because eventually you may hit the dew point, which would cause condensation. All right, identify or discuss location of two building vapor controlled materials. Yeah, we talked about the location should be in the crawl space on the floor. We don't have it. Another type would be craft paper insulation. They have aluminum faced insulation, which they got rid of because it blocked water vapor. We do not want to block water vapor above grade. We want to block water vapor below grade only. That if they were going to put faced insulation up there, I would use craft paper and I would turn it towards the living space. But it's not continuous, and there's just one piece that I could see. And so, and the vapor retarder, it's actually a vapor barrier with the solid aluminum, was turned the wrong way. It was turned up this way instead of down against the ceiling. And that's the purpose of these, that's two vapor control materials that I've discussed. I identified one, and it's the wrong material, and it's placed wrong. The location is wrong. Okay, identify type and material composition of one exterior door. Looks like we have exterior door right here, the main door of the house, and I know we have to have the door closed. He said don't let the flies in and don't attach the air conditioning, but we got to do what we got to do. Okay, this looks like a steel door. So if I look here, yeah, okay, there's a sticker on here, and it does say Legacy Steel Entry Door. So it's a steel door. What typically they did with a steel door is hollow core, and they put polyurethane foam insulation on the inside. And so plus there's a glass light, and that is double pane, so it's an insulated glass unit. This is not the original door from the 50s, I guarantee you. There's side lights here which are double pane also. All right, so that is, and the type is an in-swinging door, meaning that it's hinged. Other types would be like a slider or a double hinged patio door, a sliding patio door, but this one is hinged and it's in-swinging. I've seen some doors that are hinged to swing out, but they're few and far between. Okay, to measure what's going on here, the purpose of measuring fenestration is to get your net wall area. If I were going to insulate this, which I can't, I could do a build-in, which is actually putting a foam board over the old drywall and then doing new drywall. You would actually have to extend the boxes. They do sell electrical box extensions, so you could build in. You would have to extend the jambs of all the doors and the windows, and you'd have to extend all the electrical boxes. A lot of work, but if somebody really needs, in a colder climate, you might consider it because of the energy expenditure for trying to insulate the place in the winter. But the fenestration is the hole in the wall. So the hole in the wall, the net wall area would be the gross wall area minus any fenestration, windows, doors. I'm going to go ahead and make this, this is the hole in the wall. So it's 5 feet by 6 feet 8, which is the standard height of most doors and windows, the header height of most doors and windows. And it wants me to give you the square footage of that same exterior door. The square footage, as I said, is 5 feet. 5 feet times, now 6'8", 8 inches is 2/3 of a foot. 8 is, when I went to grade school, 8 over 12 was 2 over 2/3. So I'm going to say that's times 6.67 feet, which is the decimal equivalent of 2/3. And I'm going to get 33 1/3 square feet just in that area right there. Okay. Assess the performance of the door. Assessing the performance of that door and condition. It looks like a fairly new door. Again, it's not the original door. Performance. Does it swing okay? Yeah, it swings okay. The hinges are not loose. I'm looking at the weather stripping. I want to step back and I want to see if I can see any light coming in, which means the weather stripping would be compromised along the door. Doesn't seem to be. The other performance, because we have small children here, I want to be able to lock the door when it's closed. I can't lock the door. I have to push in and lock it. A small child can't do that. So a small child, if there's a fire and a small child trying to get out, you can't open the door. You have to push in and release your deadbolt latch. So that I don't like that. That performance needs to be remediated by moving the strike plate. You can't change the deadbolt, but you can move the strike plate so it operates correctly. All right, let's take a look at type framing and glazing material for one window. Okay, so let's, we see a window. You can go to the kitchen window, sure. Okay, and this type of window right here is a casement window. When they're hinged on the side and open out, they're called a casement window. So this is the window here. It looks like, yeah, let me move this. Looks like it does crank out. Yeah, so it operates. Does it, do I see any cracks in the weather stripping? No, this is not the 1950s window. Okay, so it's a case.
A newer one, right?
It's probably 20 years old, maybe 25 years old. So the operation works pretty well. The frame, the wood frame window, it's a casement. The glazing type, they have an interior storm window. So this is, but yeah, 20 years ago they were doing double glazing with the interior panel being a interior storm, and you could remove it to clean in between. But that is a double glazed window, okay? Yeah, I can see the two panes coming through. Typically you would look at a reflection in the window, and I can see two reflections, so that is two panes. Measuring the window itself, the hole in the wall, and you don't have to be the exact, within the nearest, quarter, third of a foot. Looks like I got 42 inches, which is 3.5 feet. Yes. And I got roughly 3 feet, because 3 feet would be to the jamb on the inside. So 3 times 3.5, that square footage is clear. 3 times 3.5, that window is 10.5 square feet, which would be the hole in the wall. I'm going to go and measure all the windows on an audit, and I believe in your program you have to do that.
No.
No?
Just if they
Count.
windows.
Take
Yeah,
just
you-
one?
You just
Photos
count-
and count them all.
Yeah.
Count them,
Yeah.
How many windows are in the home?
but don't measure the size. Okay. I just work here.
We're not selling
Okay.
windows.
Yeah, we're not selling unless we're selling them.
Now, evaluate the efficiency of the same window regarding solar installation radiation. So basically, if the front of the house faces northwest, this is facing southeast. So in the winter time, I'm going to get a lot of sun coming down into this window. In other words, right now I'm getting some sun, but it's not coming all the way in. In the winter time, it would come in here and maybe bounce up off of that refrigerator, which I want to see in the winter because I want that passive solar radiation. However, they did put an awning up there, and because I'm getting a little bit of solar radiation in here and I can feel the warmth, I want to extend that awning to block it in the summer, but retract the awning in the winter to let that solar radiation through. Okay, again, you guys, if you have any questions as to what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, you play the homeowner and you ask. Because I want you to understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I'm explaining it to you like you were the homeowner. Okay, Unit 3, HVAC forced air equipment. All right, so identify conditioned and semi-conditioned spaces within the thermal envelope. Okay, a conditioned space is something that has a method of heating or cooling within the room. So you have every room, except I do not see a forced air register in this. That is not a forced air register. That's a pass-through to that half bath.
That is too.
I really do not see a forced air register here in this kitchen. So this room is semi-conditioned because it's dependent upon heating up and cooling elements from other rooms to condition the room. Sometimes though in a kitchen, you'll see that the register is built right along the kickboards of the cabinets, but I don't see it here. This room that we went in and saw the pellet stove, that's conditioned because it's got a pellet stove. This room right here, there's no forced air register, but it's got that pass-through that we saw.
Right.
So it's semi-conditioned from 2 rooms over. It has to be semi-conditioned from the other rooms on the other side into there. This laundry room is semi-conditioned. It's got a pass-through to the conditioned playroom. And so it is semi-conditioned. All right, and then I didn't see a forced air register in the utility room, so that's semi-conditioned also. I did see forced air registers in the ceiling in that basement area. And I want to make sure there's a forced air register in every one of these other rooms. Yeah, there's one there. This is an attached garage, so I'm going to keep this door closed. Looks like there's a forced air register in the dining room. Looks like there are forced air registers in the living room. And I think there are forced air registers in all these other rooms. The only room that I would check would be the bathroom in the old master. So you see there's a forced air register in this room. And then in the old half bath in the master, you can see the forced air register behind the door. So that is conditioned. We have 3 semi-conditioned rooms. We have the kitchen, we have the half bath, and we have the laundry room. Identify the type of ducted distribution system. It's all sheet metal. I didn't see it.
Like a mirror or something.
Question, I didn't see any ductboard and I didn't see any flex duct. When I was downstairs, it's all sheet metal. Identify or discuss air sealing and insulating opportunities in the duct system. Well, I guarantee you that the the ducts in the crawl space need to be insulated. As far as the air sealing opportunities, all this old sheet metal that's 60 years old, it all leaks. Because especially when there was no central air here to begin with. So when you heat ductwork, you expand it. When you cool ductwork, you contract it. So over the years, especially adding the central air, all those little slip drives that hold the sheet metal together, they're loosey-goosey. So I guarantee you're going to need some air sealing in this duct system. We want to recommend that they have a duct leakage test done, which is done with a what they call a duct blaster, or you got Retrotech, so it's just called a duct testing system, which is like a blower door, but it's only for the duct system. Describe 2 negative aspects of extra envelope duct systems. You do have extra envelope ductwork into the crawl space going that way. 2 negative aspects. Number 1, if they leak, if the ducts leak inside here, at least the conditioned air is staying within the envelope. If they leak outside the envelope, you're air conditioning Glen Iron, Maryland, or you're heating Glen Iron, Maryland. If they're not insulated, you're losing a lot of standby loss as you're trying to pump cold air and trying to pump hot air out to these outlying rooms. A lot of that heat is being lost into the crawl space, and as you're pumping cold air, a lot of the heat from the crawl space is coming into the duct and warming up that air, so you're not getting full air conditioning to the outside outlying rooms. Another negative aspect is because they're not insulated, especially in the summer, that cold air, and I guarantee you that the air in the crawl space is probably humid, so that humidity in the crawl space hits the outside of cold sheet metal and condenses. So the condensation on the outside of those ducts could rust them right through. I'm surprised they're not rusted through as it is. The only saving grace is the crawl space is probably mostly attached to the house, so you're not getting a lot of, and I didn't see any crawl space vents, so you're not getting humidity from the outside in there. They didn't know from crawl space vents in 1955. All right, measure the net free area of one supply register and one return grill. Okay, looks like we have a supply register right here.
Good.
And the net free area, see, generally speaking, supply registers have these dampers on them because you can control the flow. So the net area is not going to be the outside, but it's going to be the area where the vanes are. Yeah, this is, I can feel the cold air coming out of this. So this is a supply register. And so the net area is going to be 11 inches by 6 inches. No, 11 by 6. Yeah, 11 by 6, or that would be, what, 66 square inches. All right, and there you report that because the BAP has to determine where that's enough air being supplied through that register to this room. Your returns, looks like you really only have 2 returns in the entire house. One of them is, they got smart because we told them, we were here before, and we told them, look, that couch is right up against the wall, and that's one of the things that can affect register or grill performance. You got furniture blocking them. Another thing that would affect performance would be if they're the wrong size, but that's up to, I'm taking the measurements, is up to the BAP to determine whether they're the right size. And so, but I do know that the net free area of the returns should equal the cumulative net free area of all the supplies. And so that's why I have to read it, that's why I have to measure it. It's just like breathing. Human being, if you inhale, you exhale the same amount. So your return is inhaling and your supply is exhaling. You should have the same amount of net free area so that you have a balanced distribution system. My grill here, 22 inches by 11, 22 by 11. Whatever that is, you can multiply that and get the net free area in square inches. I'll tell you right now, there's probably more supply net free area with all the supply registers in here, and it outnumbers the returns. So you're starving the returns. Another performance enhancing or performance retarding condition would be the location of the returns, the location of the supplies. In a predominantly heating climate, we do want to see the supplies down towards the floor. Even though it's hot and humid today, there are more heating degree days in this area than there are cooling degree days. So the position or the location of the register is important to be down low so that as you're heating, the hot air rises. Again, though, it's kind of counterproductive for cooling because cold air is coming out and it's just hanging down here. Now, ceiling fans would help because that would help to distribute the cooling air around the house. Okay, another performance limiting condition, if you had too many coats of paint, which this looks like it has several coats of paint on it, and then would retard the net free area. The other thing is the vane location. So vanes can point up, they can point down, they can point to the side. So this one right here has vanes that point up, which is ideal for a low-mounted register. If they pointed down, if somebody put it in upside down, that'd be forcing heat and cold air against the floor, which you do not want. Okay, so that's my take on the supply and return registers. Evaluate the pressure differential between 2 rooms and the central returns when the system is running. Okay, so the system is on right now and the fan is running, but I'm going to have to change that to make sure that, because it's on cool mode, let's say that the thermostat was satisfied. It's set at 7 degrees right now. So if during this test it ever hits 70 degrees, the fan goes off. So I'm gonna wanna make sure with this menu here, that I'm gonna make sure that the fan is not auto right now. I want it to run all the time. So it's still gonna cool, but the fan will never shut off. So now, I'm going to make a test here, and you see I got a hose in the garage.
You got hose everywhere.
Hose.
Different
There
area
you go.
codes.
Hose, where it goes.
All right,
Got your hose.
and you guys are using a DMX or DM32X, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got one. Everybody has one, or does Lawrence need to leave his equipment here for the field test tomorrow?
No, I got that.
Got one of those.
Everybody has a blower door and a manometer.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's mine. I know that by the serial number of, it's got a 5 on the end. Okay,
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
so I'm starting this up. What I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to make sure that the air from the bedrooms gets to the return and it doesn't build up. So what you're gonna have sometimes is the fact that people sleep with the door closed, and when you have a fossil fuel heating system, if you ever had a cracked heat exchanger, the room would fill up with carbon monoxide. And so, but even so, it's a comfort issue. If there's too much pressure built up in the room, the room actually starts getting pressurized and pushes back up against the supply registers, which means less conditioned air comes out. So it's a comfort issue. We want to make sure that there's a nice flow from the room out to the central return. So right now, okay, I'm going to measure the pressure with reference to the hallway, and that's just going to be my manometers on pressure, which is not a problem. Okay, I'm going to put this on input. You need an input on either channel. I could use either channel because they're both registering pressure. Did a couple people, does everybody know how to change, if you want to read flow for your blower door test, does everybody know how to change that?
Which one?
Channel B? It's right now it's on pressure. Does everybody know how to change that to flow? No?
Show us for funsies.
Okay, you gotta go to settings. And we need to go down here to channel B mode. The hell happened here? Get rid of that. Okay, channel B mode. And I want channel B mode to be settings. Channel B mode.
That one.
Yep. I want that to be flow in cubic feet per minute. So now if I go back, now that's CFM. That's how I change it from, pressure is sometimes needed. Okay, so I'm on channel A, which channel A will always measure pressure. You can change channel B to read a lot of different things. Okay, I'm gonna pick 2 rooms here. Hey. Now, when I'm doing it, I want to make sure that the dampers are fully open. So I can feel that the damper, I can see that the damper is open on that register. So I'm going to come out here. I got a hose inside the room. I'll show you what the reading is. And you get this.
No more locked doors.
I don't like doors. I don't like doors. I love that movie.
No more locked doors. What is it? What movie is that? Friday?
Friday after next. I believe it, yeah.
I got 1.4. You see that, Nick? 1.4 past 1.6. 1.6 pascals. My limit is 3. So that means there's a pressure buildup in the room, but enough of the air is getting under the door and to the return. If the pressure buildup ever hit 3, it was 1.7. If it ever hit 3, then I've got to probably either undercut the door or put a pass-through in, because I don't want, I don't want cold or hot air to build up in here, and especially I don't want contaminants caused by cracked heat exchanger from a fossil fuel heating system. Let me check this room, because it's got 2 registers in it. It's got a register pumping out to make sure that Damper's open. Yeah, damper's open on that one. See, if the damper was closed, you would get a false reading. You wouldn't have that much air coming in the room. So, this one's also 1.5, which is 1.6. Again, 3 would be my action level. So in other words, in order to get 3, or let's say I had 3 in order, I'd have to cut that much off the door, and you see the pressure goes down. However much I have to cut off the door to get that to come down. That's what I would do. Okay. But a lot of people don't want their doors cut, so we could put sometimes there's a transfer grill that you could put on the side into the room or on the top, or there's what they call a return air pathway you can cut into in the bottom of the door.
Nice hammer will
so
fix it too.
we passed the test. Question?
Nope.
Okay. Did you ever understand what I did? I'm making sure that there's not a pressure buildup within the rooms. All right, so
I'm grabbing my water.
my clipboard I put.
In my hand.
Oh, thank you. Lawrence looking out for me. Thank you, Lawrence. Okay. Evaluate the condition of the system filter. Well, when you're downstairs, and I was downstairs, there is no filter slot. There's an electrostatic cleaner, and they have not had it serviced in a while. There is no filter in the system. There's and it doesn't look like that thing's been cleaned or serviced in a while. So we're just going to say that we can't check a filter because there is none. Discuss 2 other types of heat distribution system. Well, there's a mini split that's not forced air distribution, and there's also hydronic heat, which could be a boiler would deliver hot water to a baseboard or a radiator, or sometimes there's what they call underfloor coil of piping, and that's actually a heated slab or heated underfloor. So there's 2 other types. I showed you 3. You tell me 2. Discuss 2 other types of cooling systems. Well, you could have a mini split, of course, that has an air conditioner on it. You could have a window unit that you just stick in because there's no forced air ductwork. Some people have, so that's it. You would have, there's natural cooling systems where people will put a whole house fan in, and then they'll run a whole house fan on a summer night when it's cool. Although you wouldn't have been able to use a whole house fan here these last few nights because it's hot and humid even at midnight. So, but typically, outside of this unusual weather pattern, it cools off at night and the humidity goes down. And you can open the windows and blow all the air out. That's a mechanical cooling system without any refrigerant. Discuss 2 conditions that can affect hydronic heating performance. Well, if you have a hydronic baseboard, which is hot water baseboard, it's around the perimeter, same thing. You don't want to push furniture in front of it. Hydronic heat can always lock up. You can have a lockup in an airlock on a radiator. You can have an airlock on hydronics. If hydronic hot water baseboard has little fins on it, and I see those fins get a bunch of dust, and they get all dusty, and they retard the heat transfer. Discuss 2 conditions that affect hydronic heat performance. Describe procedures for intra-envelope system leakage testing. So if all your ductwork is inside the envelope, some of it is not. That ductwork is outside the envelope. This ductwork is in the envelope, and I'd have to use a duct system tester. I'd have to hook up a duct blaster to a return here, and I would block off all the other registers, and I'd try to pump air through the system. And the amount of leakage, there's a standard, and it's 4 CFM per 100 square feet. So this system here, which is inside the envelope, is about how many square feet? Probably about 1,500 square feet. So if I put that system and pumped air through it, I wouldn't want any more than 60 CFM of leakage. You don't have to tell me that. You just have to tell me that you would use a a duct blaster or a duct, it's like a little fan that tells you how much the system leaks. For the extra envelope ductwork, the easy way to do that is just use a pressure pan with the blower door. And it tells you how much communication is between the ductwork outside the envelope because you're picking up air from the outside with the blower door. Okay, let me know if you guys want to take a break. I'm fine, I'll go right through because you got to take your test. I want to get you out of here. Mechanical equipment. All right, let's go downstairs and look at the mechanical equipment. Right now I got the fan on permanent run. Okay, let's go downstairs and take a look at the mechanical equipment.
We use the restroom real quick.
All right. Identify domestic water heater fuel source, BTU capacity, tank capacity, and combustion category. Okay, that is a heat pump water heater. So the fuel source is electricity. The BTU capacity would be figured, well, these heat pump water heaters, I think it's a 50-gallon tank, which I can read off of here. That'd be the tank capacity.
Oh, that's like a 60, 65.
50.
Is it really?
It's the ones we put in all the houses. It's
Oh,
actually one.
shit.
The top of it is the heat pump system, and the bottom where it says performance
Yeah,
down
it's a
is the
50-gallon tank,
That's all we use is
Oh,
50.
okay.
and the BTU capacity,
No, we got 80s and shit.
it doesn't give you, it's not a fossil fuel water heater, so you can't really worry about the BTU capacity. The compressor, these are all like 3 amp compressors. So you take 3 amps, and I believe that is 220 volts, but that's a 10 gauge cable, 10-2, and it would be 6,600 watts. So 220, 660 watts, and then you could do that conversion to BTUs, but you don't have to. You just say it's a 3 amp compressor, which they all are, and then your backup elements would be here and here. Those are, if the compressor cannot keep up with the thermostat, then these elements kick in. These are backup elements, and they're 45. Looking at that, they're 4,500 watts a piece. So you have 9,000 watts of backup water heat, which is, but the heat pump is a lot more efficient because it doesn't generate heat like the element, it just moves it. You're moving heat from, that's why it's so cold in here, because the evaporator is giving off cold air, and there's a condensate line coming off the evaporator. So it's taking air from in here, transferring it to the water, and giving off cold air. It's taking the heat out of the air down here is what it's doing. Okay, so assess hot water pipe insulation opportunities. This looks like the hot side coming off here, because you can feel it's warm, the pipe is warm. The expansion tank is usually, if it's done right, it's always on the cold side. That's the expansion, you can feel that's cold water. Insulation opportunities, yeah, I mean, you know, that's like, you know, a penny's worth of insulation in a $10,000 job. So you really want to insulate all the hot water you can find. That's why it's so, hot water pipes you can see that are visible. That's why it took so long for that water to heat up upstairs in the bathroom. All right, so we
And
want
your
to
setting is at 130, but we only had a 115 reading. You lost 15 degrees just getting to that bathroom.
standby loss. Just radiating out of the pipes.
What do you think a good thing about these heat pumps is? Like within the water heater? Like would you, if a customer has something to say about, oh I fucking
Between the steel outer layer and the tank on the inside,
Yeah.
so you
I've
don't
seen
have to put a blanket on it.
I've seen the inside of them. They're great.
Yeah, they're foam.
Yeah.
On an electric water heater or a gas water heater built after
Don't they come with a
2010, there's a little plug
Don't
here.
some of them come with a dehumidifier at the top?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, the dehumidifier is right here.
Is that what
Blowing
you're-
condensation.
I've seen like a red, like some of them have like a red top to it.
I'm not a heat pump water heater
Maybe I'm
aficionado. I don't
getting
know
it
that
mixed
much
up,
about
but
it.
I'm pretty sure the 8. I don't know. When I get back, when I get to the shop, I'll look at the 80s. I swear to God, they have like a.
Something.
It's like a red machine at the top. I don't know what it is.
Well, all a dehumidifier would do would take humidity out of the air and then dump it into the condensate
That's what I'm
line.
thinking. Yeah. Maybe I could be wrong. Might have been mixing.
I don't know.
With something
Don't know
else.
that much about heat pump water heaters. Identify, assess condition, describe function of the thermostat and TPR system. Okay, the thermostat's right here, and that obviously keeps the water temperature in the tank at 130 degrees. And your TPR system, temperature pressure relief valve, is right here. That's a good touch right here because this valve can be hot if somebody touches it. And then the TPR valve, it should be 4 to 6 inches off of the floor. That looks like it's kind of tight, so if that valve ever blows, and don't ever test these, because the newer TPR valves, they're hard to reset them. So if that ever blows, water will just shoot right up in the air. So I like to see it, but then again, they have a drain pan.
Yeah. I've walked into some houses and they don't have drain pans. You'll see a leakage all over the floor.
Well, that's the drain pan to nowhere. And the purpose of that drain pan is to break contact between the concrete slab and the bottom of the tank. So it doesn't, the moisture from the slab doesn't rust out the bottom of the tank.
Where's the,
That's the only
where's the
purpose
filter
of
for
that.
this?
That is your, looks like your return plenum. And oh, that's an isolation boot, because by any vibration will keep the slip drives. See, these are your slip drives here, and you generally can feel air blowing out of them because they get real loose.
Can you turn when you have an air handler? Can you turn the speed down for the fans like manually?
Not you.
No, like not
licensed
me,
heat.
but
There's depend on the motor you have, whether it's a permanent split capacitor or
Like if it's so
ECM.
loud where your customer is like, hey, like I can't even hear my TV. It's so loud.
Well, that's a bad motor.
Is it a
Time to
bad
replace the motor.
Really?
You're talking about the air handler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's brand
you,
new?
You definitely have to set the speed of the motor based on the capacity of your system and the size of your duct system.
So
Because you got to move.
It might just be like over.
Yeah, it's a bad bearing in the motor.
Damn, that's a brand new fucking motor too. The guy's dealing with. Oh yeah.
He's going to show that to his daughter. Yeah.
Hopefully not the F word.
Okay, so
Beep beep beep.
yeah, so the TPR system is there. You really don't need the drain pan for anything more than breaking the contact between the slab and the bottom of the tank. The reason being, if the TPR blows, you have an open sump pit within 10 feet, it'll drain into there. Okay. Identify 2 other existing or non-existing domestic water heater safety components. Here is a existing expansion tank, and that expansion tank is there on the right side of the system, on the cold water side, and that keeps the pressure from building up and blowing the TPR valve. The pressure would build up as you heat the water, and because I don't know if he has a check valve water meter, but they had to put these on ever since they put backwater valves on meters that are outside the house. I don't know if he has one here, because he has a well. Okay, so this was, somebody just puts expansion tanks on everything. I don't think you need it with a well, I wouldn't know. Okay, another safety feature they do have, they have a shut-off valve. They have it on both sides. You really only need it on the cold water side. Another safety component might be if the drain pan you didn't have a open sump pit, you'd have to activate that drain pan to where the water would drain into, in this case, all I could do is drain it into the same pump that the condensate is coming out of for the AC, and try to pump that up. Yeah, that's the condensate off the coil, the evaporator coil, is being pumped out of the house. I'd have to have some side, couldn't use the same pump because it's up above this
They
layer
have the
here.
condensation line going into this.
Yeah, but if I didn't have that, I'd need to pump it out. Okay, identify the heating system fuel source. Boom, it's right there. Okay, I'm going to go around here back, and there's a sticker on the inside here.
My pump went bad the other day. I had to get it replaced.
Your sump pump?
No, the pump for the AC.
The sticker on the inside says it's 105,000 BTUs. Right on the wall of the unit. It says 105,000 BTUs.
That's what that
Okay,
is, right?
the fuel source is oil. All right, and
The bottom thing, that's what.
the category of the appliance is it's a category 1 appliance because it's naturally drafted. There's no fan assist. It's naturally drafted by a barometric damper. You can't see the barometric damper is just this side of that supply plenum. And so it's naturally drafted with a draft hood. Instead of a draft hood, all equipment has a barometric damper, or what they call a draft diverter. Identify or discuss 2 existing or non-existing heating system safety components. Well, one safety component you would probably want, you would probably want a shut-off switch,
She has.
which you do have right here. So this is a kill switch. So if somebody's working on the equipment, you see I just shut off the whole. Don't ever do that if the heat is operating because you might crack the heat exchanger. You have a kill switch right there. You also, on the inside here, you have what's called, there's up to the upper left-hand corner, there's a, what is it? Oh, that's a upper high limit switch. So that means if it ever gets too hot inside the combustion chamber, it'll cut off the system. The reason you don't want it getting too hot is you'll expand the heat exchanger too much. And then when you shut it off, it contracts and it can crack. So there's a high limit switch in there.
There's also a door switch when you take the cover
Yeah,
off.
door switch.
At releases, so you'll have the cover off trying to check something or like see the burners or whatever, check the unit.
This
And
doesn't
it
have
won't go
it.
on because that cover's off.
Because you can see the cover's off, and there was no cover. Yeah, cabinet switch they call that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
that's good that you discussed that. Okay, so those are 3 that you could discuss or identify. Identify the fuel source and BTU capacity of the cooling system. Okay, the fuel source obviously is electricity. I was outside, I should have gone around to the compressor, but I will say that I've seen it before and it says the reason I know it's 2.5 tons is because there's a 30 somewhere in the model number. Okay, and so 2.5 tons is the BTU capacity, which is 30,000 BTUs.
Or mini splits are like what?
Identify or discuss a cooling system safety component. You do have a cooling system safety component, which is the condensate pump. I would also like to see, this is the condensate drain here. In a lot of these, you'll see a float switch, which means that if this ever clogs up, it'll shut off the system so you don't drip water all over the floor and all over the system. That's a cooling system. Oh, also outside, there's a pull-out disconnect right by the compressor. That is a safety component of the cooling system. All right, identify boundaries of the CAS and determine if it's confined or unconfined. Okay, the theory there, or the formula there, is 50 cubic feet for every 1,000 BTU. So if you close this door and that's running, that is 105,000 BTU. So 105 times 50 would be almost over 5,000. Be about 5,500. And so with this door closed, do you have 5,500 cubic feet in here?
No.
Hell no. And why do you need it? You need it because burners are just like people. They need oxygen to actually undergo what they call respiration. Respiration means they're burning oil. In this case, human beings burn glucose, but you need oxygen to produce energy. And this is way confined. It's a confined space. Identify the boundary of the CAS. CAS is combustion appliance zone. Identify the appliance as a warm vent or a cold vent and explain the difference. A warm vent is an appliance that has a standing pilot light. Like a gas water heater would have a pilot light up underneath, so that would be a warm vent. This has an electronic ignition on an oil burner, so it's a cold vent. Means that this vent, when it's even during heating season, that vent always is cold to the touch. If there was a water heater here, I don't think oil burners, water heaters had a pilot either. So they would have been both cold vents. All right, so
So it's just a cold vent because there's no pilot.
cold vent does not have a pilot, has electronic ignition. Conduct the NFPA, that's National Fire Protection Association, who's the organization that regulates flue safety. And the flue venting system, the flue comes right off the top of the burner compartment and it goes into that chimney. I see a problem right now, and that's a crack around the seal. So if you ever backdraft any of the exhaust, it's going to come right in through those cracks. So that should be sealed up or fixed with either furnace cement or high temperature caulk. Another common problem would be that you don't have enough slope. Your slope here has to be 1/4 inch per foot up. And I know that's way more than 1/4 inch per foot. If it was suspect, I have this level that's a plumber's level, because plumbers have the same regulation. That's 1/4 inch per foot downhill for turd pipes. Excuse me, drain pipes or waste pipes. Okay, so you see two sets of lines on this level. The outside line is a minimum 1/4 inch per foot. Inside the two center lines is dead level. So if you see something that looks level, put this on there and make sure that it slopes up, meaning that it would touch that outside line right there. And if it doesn't do that, that is a problem. Another common problem is that you would change the size of the flue vent before it hits the vent connector, the flue vent connector before it actually hits the vent. And that is the same size throughout, so that's not a problem. Another common problem would be that a smaller BTU appliance has to enter the vent above the larger BTU appliance. And the reason for that is the larger BTU appliance warms up the bottom of the vent so that it will vent on a cold winter morning. Let's say the heat is not being called for, but your water heater's on. If the bottom of that vent is not warmed up, you may backdraft. So in this case, the furnace comes in below the water heater to help warm up the vent. Okay, so that would be a common problem at those two thimbles. A thimble is an entrance of a metal flue connector or vent connector to the masonry vent. All right, identify the location of the blower motor, heat exchanger, and the coil for a combo heating and cooling system. Okay, your blower motor is, the burner is back there. So what the blower motor is doing in this case is, because the supply plenum is here and the return plenum is here. Remember we said there is no filter? Because the filter would normally be here, but there's just this electrostatic heat system. Yeah, he's got that plugged in the other side. And April air cleaner. Yeah, okay, well, there should be where the filter would be. There is no filter. So the blower motor is right behind this door. It's pushing air past the heat exchanger, which is where the burner is. The burner is putting exhaust gas into the heat exchanger. At the top of the heat exchanger is the vent connector, which dumps into the vent. So this blower motor blows air past the heat exchanger and warms up the air during heating season. It also blows past the heat exchanger and then blows past the coil, which is on top of the heat exchanger. So it's blowing air up past the coil. This is the coil for the air conditioner, because here are the liquid line and the suction line. The liquid line is always a little bit smaller and it's hot because it's got a hot gas in it, or hot liquid. And this here is a little cooler, and that's why we insulate it to retain the cold temperature. Okay, so we've identified the blower motor down here, the heat exchanger, which is that direction of the blower motor, and then the coil, which is on top of the heat exchanger. All right, CAS depressurization. We are going to depressurize the CAS. Here's a gated item. Why are we going to depressurize the CAS? We want to find out if, when we depressurize the CAS, we want to find out if the furnace will backdraft, because that is a dangerous situation. Okay, discuss 2 methods to disable the combustion appliances and implement one. One method would be to hit the kill switch, but we don't want to do that. Sometimes that's the only thing you can do. What we are going to do is we are going to disable it at the thermostat, because we want the fan to come on, and if we hit the kill switch, we kill the power to the thermostat. We can't play with the fan. This heat pump water heater is going to create air currents because it's circulating air through here, so I don't want to mess with the pressures here, so I'm going to shut this heat pump water heater off. Right here at this switch right there is now disabled. So that heat pump water heater will not mess with our pressures. Okay, I'm going to disable that upstairs. Manometer here, which I'm going a little bit ahead of time. This is going to be a constant pressure at which I measure my CAS pressure against. So I'm going to open that up, and you probably need a little hard tube that you can close the vinyl tube on. In other words, if you close the window on this or pinch it, you wouldn't get an accurate measurement. Sometimes it's very windy outside and you get a downdraft into these window wells, but I don't feel any wind here. If it was very windy, what I would do is I'd put another section of hose on this and stick it in a bottle to basically mitigate the effect of wind blowing across here. That really messes with the pressure because it's like blowing across. Okay, I'm going to close that on the hard pipe, and then this end of the, I'm not going to turn this on yet because it tends to, what's the timeout after if you leave it inactive for about 2 or 3 minutes? Mm-hmm. It just shut off on its own. Okay, the idea of what this test wants to do is it wants to measure the difference in pressures that I make inside the CAS. So anything you're measuring is an input. When you do an experiment, a control or a constant is what you're measuring against. We're measuring against outside, so this is going to be a reference. And because I have my, I changed the situation on channel B to where it's now on flow, I need to use channel A, and my channel A reference is a red port. That's going to go into the CAS. All right. It's going to go into the CAS right here. All right, and then where am I? So it's correctly set up the house for. I kind of jumped ahead. Properly set up the manometer, but we have to activate it after that. Correctly set up the house for CAS testing conditions. Well, the first thing I want to do is close off the crawl space. I want to make sure that I'm not leaving anything in the house open to the outside. Even though this is a kind of a makeshift door, it really doesn't do anything. And by the way, when we were, everybody know Alex? Alex was doing, did he tell you what happened?
Yeah, the paint.
Yeah, paint all over the place. Took us an hour and a half to clean it up. And so we had this paint can up here holding the door shut.
Yeah,
ran the blower door.
Oh, the blower door took it off.
Yeah.
Blower door blew the paint can off the shelf.
Huh. That's crazy.
So I'm going to do this. I mean, there is no effing way that's going to blow that block off. And that's my favorite expression. When I used to babysit criminals in high school, they said, "Mr. Daly, am I going to pass your class?" I said, "Well, before I answer that question, let me ask you a question. How do you spell way?" They said, W-A-Y. I said, "Wait a minute, you forgot the F." "There is no F in way." I said, "That's the answer to your first question." Okay, so now,
Where is this going?
what we're going to do now is set up the house for CAS testing. All the windows have to be shut and latched, which pretty much I'm sure they do for air conditioning. I'm going to close all the interior doors that have only a supply register. and I'm going to open up the rest. This does not have a supply register, I'm leaving it open. This does not have a supply register, I'm gonna leave it open. This does not have a supply register, I'm gonna open it up. Okay, there's a dryer going. I can't have any exhaust fans going right now, so I'm going to kill the power to that. Okay, I can't have that fan going. Here's a door here. There's no supply register in here. So I need to communicate. This door stays closed. All these windows are closed. I have a supply register in this room right here. And so I'm going to close this door. I have a supply register in this half bath. I'm going to close this door. I have a fan in this shower. I'm going to turn this fan on. No, I don't need that. Shut up. It doesn't exhaust out of the house. Okay, that fan is on. I leave this door open because I want that fan to communicate with the cabs. This has a supply register only. I'm going to close this door.
So if there is a supply,
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, that's alright. You want these?
Supply register only.
Like,
What I'm doing, I'm going by this right here. So if you have this, that's fine. If you don't have it, then go by what I'm doing right here. And the list is right here, what I'm doing. Combustion protocol, safety exhaust testing standards. So step by step, that's what I'm doing right down the line. It'll be on my clipboard if you don't have it. What a lot of people like to do is download it off the Dropbox and put it on a phone or a tablet and just refer to it digitally. Paper is kind of out these days, I guess. Okay, but that's what I'm doing. You can read along with what I'm doing. Okay, so this room stays closed. And by the way, there's two fans in here. You might think that this is the fan, but it's not the fan, it's a heat lamp. The one on the right is a heat lamp. So the one on the left is the fan. See, there's two switches here. Don't turn the switch on for the heat lamp. It's on the right. Use this one on the left. This is a heat lamp. No, you want this to be, this is the fan. These are lights, you don't need them. Okay. And so we leave this door open because the room has a fan. If the room had a return register or a fan that exhausts air out of the house, we leave the door open. Every other door, interior door, we close. The interior doors now, we do have fans that are sucking air out of the house, and we want to leave this door open so we can communicate with those fans. We want to leave this door open so we communicate with the fans. We do now have a kitchen fan, which we want to suck air out of the house. I'm going to put this dryer on, but I don't want to burn her clothes up, so I'm going to put it on. Whoops. Almost drowned a teddy bear. I'm going to turn it on. Air dry only. So I want the temperature. I have to have it on time dry, and I can put the temperature extra low, but there's no air on it. So I got extra low temperature. I don't want to burn up her clothes. I got 40 minutes on this, so that's fine. So I'm going to start the dryer and leave this door open.
so this is open, but there's
Doesn't matter. It stays open because I want the dryer to be sucking air. The dryer sucking air out of the house. That's a pass through. That's actually just a pass through. It's not a supply register. This door stays open. These doors, it doesn't matter what I do, because it has no heating or, well, it doesn't have anything that's going to affect the pressure in the house. It doesn't matter what I do with these doors. Okay, so this is the initial pressure that I'm going to look at. And I need to take 4 readings. The first 2 readings are going to be with the exhaust fans on and the CAS door open and the CAS door closed. So let me fire up the manometer. So now what I've done is theoretically I've sucked some of the air out of the house. We're trying to suck enough air out of the house or enough air out of the CAS that we make that furnace backdraft. It may not backdraft. Okay, so I'm on reference. Why? Because what I'm measuring is going to be the pressure in the CAS, which is an open input. The reference is the pressure outside. This fires up. Now with the CAS door open and the exhaust fans on, I have a negative pressure of -1 point Pascal. I depressurize this area by about a Pascal. Now I want to check it with the door closed. It's less, it's 0.8 Pascal, which means I cut off the communication with those fans and the dryer. So right now I know I'm going to keep this door open. Now the next thing I do is I'm going to activate the blower motor. Why am I going to does anybody know why I activate the blower motor separately? Okay. Most of the time, it's going to make that pressure more negative because I'm pumping air into rooms with closed doors. If I pump air into rooms with closed doors, energy, pressure is neither created nor destroyed. It's just moved around. So I'm moving pressure from down here up into those rooms by turning on the blower motor. There are situations where it could cause the pressure to go up in that room if you have a bunch of leaks in that ductwork that's in that room. If I turn the blower motor on and that 1 Pascal becomes less negative, like -0.8, -0.6, then I have to shut off the blower motor because it's not contributing to worst case depressurization. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to turn on the blower motor. 8 -0.6, then I have to shut off the blower motor because it's not contributing to worst case depressurization. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to turn on the blower motor. Okay, fan only. What happened? It went to -1.3, -1.2. So what that means is that it became more negative because and we know that this door has to stay open in order to communicate with the rest of the exhaust appliances. What happened is we pumped enough air into those remote bedrooms. We actually only closed 2 doors, but we pumped enough air in there that we made it more negative down here. Now I've got to check the position of the doors that I left open. And I'm going to do that with my manometer. If I left the door open, I got to find out what's happening. I got to find out if there is a supply register, and I want to find out if the supply register beats the fan. Okay, I left this door open, but it doesn't matter the position. I'll start all the way back here. We know that these rooms are positive. We did that test already. We know that these rooms are positive. Okay, so I'm gonna stick a hose in this room, and there's a fan sucking air out, and there's a register sucking air in. Okay? Blowing air in. So I want to find out what wins.
Hi, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
What is that? Oh, I want to change their input because I'm testing. I'm testing this room. What wins, the fan or the supply register?
Supply.
Supply register is positive in that room. I'm going to keep this door closed because the supply register is beating that fan. Did you get that? Okay. Leave that door closed.
Stay in there. Time out.
Here's another room we left open. We already know that these are positive. You saw that in the distribution, forced air distribution test. Do we have a supply register in this room? Mm-hmm. Yeah, right there. Beat right the other side of the toilet paper holder. See it? So we want to find out what wins. The fan or the supply register. This one here is going to be, this door is pretty close to the floor, so I'm going to try to get this without pinching the hose. Guess who wins? So am I stepping on that hose?
Ooh, that's an even fight.
It's even.
Wow.
It's a Mexican
I think it has to do
standoff.
it though.
Actually, there it goes. It's negative. So I'm leaving it open.
Gotta watch them hose.
Okay.
Mexican standoff.
Never heard that before? I'm really dating myself.
Mexican standoff.
Always with my back to the cab. I left this door open because it was communicating with the fan. So let's see what happens here. Come on this side of the door, guys.
So then I'm here.
Negative. Okay? It is negative with that area with regard to the cast, so we leave it open. If there's a negative reading, you leave it open. This would have to be negative because there's nothing flowing air in here. But just to, I wouldn't even test this, but just to show
That's
you
the
that
one
it's
you need
negative.
your pipe.
See, it's sucking air out. Get dryer, sucking air out. Leave it open. Okay, last door I test is the basement door. Somebody take this and go down halfway down the basement stairs.
I'm not
Okay, because I gotta have the hose up here.
Hose are everywhere.
Yep. What do you got, positive or negative? Negative? Negative, stays open. Okay. So we've looked at every door. We don't have to test these two doors because there's nothing in it that could affect pressures. So now this should be the most negative that we can get the house, or the CAS area. So just to verify that, I'm going to switch this back. In order to measure this, I'm going to switch this back to reference. In other words, I had to switch to blue input because I was measuring what the pressure was in it. Anything I measure is an input. Anything I have to measure and interpret is going to be an input. Anything I know is a reference. So I know what the pressure is outside. I don't know what it is. It's constant, but it's an atmospheric pressure. Okay? So just to verify that I've created the most negative pressure possible in this CAS, I'll put that hose back on, run that back outside, put this in the CAS, and now I have minus 1.5. I had minus 1 point, we gotta let that cook down a little bit. Non-reference. Yeah, there it goes. I have minus 1.5. So that is more negative than anything I had before. So that's the worst case depressurization test. So now the should be a bit power off, it'll go off, right? Good thing.
You're not human. Your fingers don't work.
I just got this.
You've been struggling with that.
Oh, it went off. Okay. So that's worst case depressurization. Now we have to stay in worst case depressurization because we're going to do a spillage test. Now, if you notice, the spillage test says, and that same sheet I gave Nick, it says a spillage test is conducted at a cold vent at 5 minutes because that gives the appliance enough time to warm up the vent, which is the masonry chimney. A warm vent is conducted at 2 minutes. So you have the sheet I gave you, right? You look, or it's based on my clipboard.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. No, I didn't turn it off. Son of a.
So when discuss two conditions affecting worst case readings or corresponding.
Name two conditions affecting worst case depressurization. One could be the fact that it's very windy outside, and I think I alluded to that already. It's very windy outside, you have to put it in a bottle. Another adverse condition you're going to run into is that you have people in the house. Very few people are going to leave you alone in the house. And so they're going to follow you around, and there's probably little kids in the house, and you just changed a bunch of doors and turned a bunch of fans on. They might go to the bathroom, shut the door, and turn the fan off when they leave. And you're sitting there trying to measure something, and it screws up your measurements. So what you do there is you say, okay, kids, here's $10, go to the movies. Or
Tie up these little crackers.
tie them up, yeah.
Yeah, tie them up.
I just say, hey, look, what we did here,
You just
when she had the kids here one time, and they were running all around the place, slapping the hell out of each other, closing doors, slamming doors. I said, look, put on whatever it is, SpongeBob SquarePants on the TV and sit their ass down on the couch and make them watch it.
Make
Because-
you don't have to fight me, yeah.
Yeah. Well, really, I mean, you've got to make sure if people are in the house, they got to know what you're doing, and they can't sabotage your efforts.
Put them in a dog crate.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good spot.
Okay, so I'm going to test for spillage right now, and I'm going to wait 5 minutes. I've got to turn on the furnace, which is kind of crazy because they're going to say, hey, wait a minute, it's 95 degrees outside. Why the hell are you turning on my furnace? Hey, I got to test it. So because I have activated a combustion appliance in worst case depressurization, I have to make sure that I'm not backdrafting any carbon monoxide in here. So now, is the furnace on? Yep, furnace is on. The vent is hot. I gotta wait 5 minutes. Now, two things. I gotta make sure it's safe to leave here, because I could be backdrafting it. It is still 0 parts per million carbon monoxide. So it's safe to do what I need to do. Now this has to warm up. It's a cold vent, so in your directions it says let the cold vent run for 5 minutes before you test for spillage. While I'm testing for spillage, what else is on there? I maybe can answer some of the questions on the spillage area. Spillage is where? Down here? Okay, gated item, I did that, right?
We just split the switch.
Okay, what's next on there?
Correctly identified various appliance time.
5 minutes for a cold vent, 2 minutes for a warm vent. What's next?
5 minutes for what?
Cold vent, 2 minutes for a warm vent. I gotta wait 5 minutes. This is a cold vent. What's next?
Correctly determine if one appliance passes the spillage test.
Yeah, we're gonna do that in 5 minutes. What's next?
Identify or disclose action to be taken if the appliance does not pass. Worst case depressurization.
If it doesn't pass in worst case depressurization, I'm gonna go back and put the house back in natural conditions. That means all doors open, all fans off, and I'm gonna test it again. What's next after that? Natural conditions. Run another test.
Describe spillage testing procedure when multiple appliances exist in the cab.
Okay, if I had a water heater and a furnace, like it was the original configuration of this equipment, I would test the smallest BTU appliance first, and then leave it running, and then test the larger BTU appliance for spillage. Smaller BTU appliance first, then the larger one.
And then last would be describe exhaust testing procedure when the appliance, if the appliance does not have a draft hood.
You're going to run into that if you have like a heat pump water heater and an 80% furnace, or a electric water heater and an 80% furnace. You don't test spillage in a 90% furnace. It won't backdraft. It's power vented. But an 80% furnace, do we know what that is? It's one with a little fan motor. Have you guys seen an 80%er yet?
Most
Sure
of
you
I've seen the 90s with the PV.
With the plastic pipes.
Yeah.
You have an 80% furnace, you said. Or no, you have a boiler.
I had a boiler. It was like 7%.
It doesn't work
from the
anymore. You
70s. Then
disabled it?
It's gone. It's out.
Gone. Okay, you're all heat pumps. I mean, you're all mini splits.
Yeah, mini split heat pump.
But before you had probably a 70% boiler. It had a draft hood on it.
Oh yeah. And it was
Yeah.
really old.
Yeah, okay. You know what I'm talking about, an 80% furnace. Yeah. Doesn't have a draft hood, it has a little induced fan. Okay. In that case, you do a draft test. You would drill a hole in the vent and see if you had negative pressure in there. Okay, so that's theoretically that's good enough. What I'm going to do, I'm still at 0. I can use smoke or a mirror. Why could I use smoke or a mirror to test for spillage? What would a mirror show me, other than I'm ugly?
Heat. The heat.
Condensation.
Condensation. Yeah, fog, mist. But right here, I'm going to use smoke, and so I'm going to fire up. That's been, effectively, it's been 5 minutes. So I'm going to fire up this smoke stick. You want to get a good burn on it for about 10-15 seconds. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this next to the barometric damper. So basically try to look around the side so you can see what I'm doing.
What are those?
Look around that side.
I can't get back there.
Now, here's the barometric damper right here. I'm going to hold it a foot away, or an inch down and an inch out. And you can see that smoke sucking right up the barometric damper. See it? I don't see it. You see the smoke sucking up in there.
I've seen it before.
Right, you've seen it before. You've seen it before.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that passes the spillage test.
Thank God.
Right. So we're good to go there. You've seen it before. Yeah. It passes the spillage
Supposed
test.
to lick it.
I could put a mirror there too, and if it didn't fog up on me, then it passes the spillage test. Okay, I think we covered everything in spillage. Now we're going to go to CO, and whatever I'm doing on CO is on my little clipboard on the CO ANSI chart. ANSI also, remember that ANSI regulates CO levels in buildings. That's American National Standards Institute. It regulates CO levels in buildings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up my combustion analyzer, because I've got to do CO testing. I test for CO at steady state of the appliance. All appliances, burners, generally take about 5 minutes to reach steady state on the burner. So I'm going to go up here and get my combustion analyzer.
Try
A
it.
gated item is that you must calibrate this outside. So just for the sake of expediency, and it's getting close to 12 o'clock, I'm going to calibrate it inside because it's just
Calibrate
for
out
kicks
that
and
window?
grins. Yeah, I can stick it out the window. Very good.
There's
Good.
outside.
We're outside if I stick it out the window. So there, it's on there. Lock it in. Pop.
Lock in, baby. Lock in.
Lock and load. I'm gonna stick it out the window, and here's the power button. Now you can ask me, hey look, this is not my equipment, how do I turn it on? I'm gonna say, I can't touch anything. I'd be a ghost with a camera. But I'm gonna say, you see that little gray button up on the top right? Press that little gray button. Now it's gonna say, it's not gonna do anything. It's just gonna say, oh snap, this is, okay. It's gonna say fuel. There's a light, so I'm gonna say fuel. Here on the left, hit the fuel button. It's gonna say natural gas. Are we dealing with natural gas?
No.
No, we're dealing with oil. So I'm gonna tell you, hit the scroll button, and it changes the fuel. Bioheat 5? Yes, no? Bioheat? No.
No.
Propane?
No.
No. Oil number 5? Oil number 6? I don't even know what those are. Kerosene? Wood?
Nope.
Oil number 2?
Correct.
That's it.
That's
Yep,
number
knew
2,
it.
fuel oil. Okay.
Good old number 2.
Info setting accepted. Now it's going to say, do I want to measure the flue gas? Yes, okay. So what it's going to do now, it's going to calibrate down for 30 seconds. The other one doesn't work. I couldn't get the other one to work. But even though you were familiar with that one, this is easier to use. It's 30 seconds. So 19, 18, 17, 15, 14, CO. If I have nothing else to do, always check your CO level. Still 0. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They want you to stay in worst case depressurization to check CO, because there is a possibility that if you are backdrafting, that you're playing with the fuel air mixture. So you want to make sure that it's not, it could cause a backdraft because of the backdraft. It could cause high CO reading because of the backdraft. Now I'm going to leave this right here. You take a look at it. We're going to go ahead and start it.
What do you see, Brandon?
And there's a hole.
Give me some information.
Oh,
There's a hole down low here.
This is showing shit like thermostat right now.
On this side of the burner. Okay, I want to get it in there like that.
105, 140, 157, 186. CUs.
That's efficiency. I'm going to go scroll down to get CO air free. Whoops.
yeah, that looked like a real high.
Main menu
CO.
measure.
Feeling lightheaded.
There it is. Okay. I'm going to scroll down and get CO air free. It should, I got it in a hole down, the lowest hole down. Okay, 21%, oh, start. Gotta start it. Okay. Oh, it works better when you hit start. It's actually a fairly clean burning appliance at 1 part per million CO air free. That is very unusual for a highly, an old, there goes a 2. I want to see if it stops going up. It's 8% oxygen. What is the normal atmospheric oxygen? Anybody know?
20%.
20%. What happened to the other 12%?
It got burned.
Being burnt. You're right. Okay, so this passes. This is hot.
What hole was that in?
So I'm going to stop that. The chart.
Can I see the hole that's down?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave this on because I'm gonna go jump ahead onto unit 9, and I'm going to test an oven. Okay, so it's rather than have to restart this again. There you go. All right, let me make sure that's off.
So did you get a full 15 grand from BG&E? That's sweet.
Yeah, off fan auto. That was just a long period of time for that fan to cool off the heat exchanger. Now, I'll go to unit 9, and let me get my chart. is check to see if there's anything in there. And there's a pot in there, I'm gonna take that out. I'll put this, man, that's a heavy ass pot. Did you get anything in there? No. Cast iron. Okay, I wanna make sure that it's clean. What a lot of people do with gas ovens, or any oven, they'll put aluminum foil down here to catch the grease. That is a big problem with a gas oven because you would have vents right here where the burner's right underneath here and the flame's coming up, and what you're doing is you're impinging the flame. You're stopping the exhaust of the flame, you're blowing exhaust back down on the flame, which cuts down on the oxygen and makes it produce CO. So you do not want any aluminum foil on the bottom of the oven. You want to make sure it's fairly clean and they haven't, blown up a cat or something inside the oven. And so that's what I'm going to do there. Now, I do need to start it, so I'm going to do bake, and I'm going to do 500, and I'm going to start it. Now, I'm going to also start my analyzer here, and you see that this should all clear out. This should go back down to 0. Come on, clear out. Yeah, there it goes. It's clearing out. Okay, so it won't say air free because there's no vent. Air free only registers where there's a vent connector. Right now it's on 0. And the temperature, yeah, it's 80 degrees in here because we ran the heat. Okay, so I'm going to CO only. I'm going to stick it. The vent would be the same. I've seen 1 or 2 wall-mounted gas ovens. Here it is, right here. There's the vent. Have you ever seen a wall-mounted gas oven? I've only seen 2 in my life.
I don't think so.
Okay, see where the vent is? That's the big hole. Not these little holes. You can't get it in there. The big hole's right there. You can get it all the way in. You don't even need any Vaseline. Okay, and so that is 0. It's not going to measure any CO because obviously it's an electric oven. But so, just so you know where to test, how to turn it on, and now how to turn it off. So that would be cancel off. All right, now I can cancel this.
But
now,
if the oven was really dirty,
Pardon?
it could measure CO if the oven was really dirty, it was burning
That's
off.
correct. I have seen electric ovens burn grease and give off CO, but there was no grease in that oven. Gated item, check your CO. Now, I can't get any CO here, and I won't get any. I'm going to hold this down. I'm going to shut this off to conserve the battery. That's 0. I'm going to shut this off. That's purge mode. It should kick right away because there's no CO in there. You give me 2 numbers because I'm going to give you 2 theoretical fake numbers of the CO measurement and the ambient CO here. Who wants to give me 2 numbers? Any 2 numbers?
9.
9. And what other number?
40.
9 and 40. Okay, so if I had 9 parts per million in the oven, I would pass. But if I had 40 ambient, which is highly unlikely, but it could happen, I do have a passing appliance CO level, but I have an ambient CO of 40, I have to deactivate the appliance. And I stop any kind of pending weatherization work until that level of 40 is remediated. I had this happen about the most inopportune day of the year on a day before Thanksgiving. Had an energy audit, okay? I got to test your oven. Lady, your oven fails. It's putting out 37 parts per million ambient. I pulled the oven out from the wall, turned the gas off, and shoved it back in. She says, you can't do that. I said, watch me, I just did it. She says, I got people coming, we're going to cook 5 turkeys tomorrow. I said, pro tip, I think Popeyes fries out Cajun turkeys and sells them. She says, turn that back on. I said, ma'am, I cannot do that.
Not today, Satan.
No, I cannot do that. It's the Hippocratic oath, like the doctor. They can't, you have to shut it off. You're endangering people that are breathing carbon monoxide.
Did you have to fight her?
Yeah, so what do you do if they say, here's what she said. She said, you know what? When my husband comes home, I saw what you did. When my husband comes home, I'm going to have him pull the oven out and turn the gas back on. I said, is that right? What do you do in that situation?
Sign this.
Your company must have a waiver letter pull out the letter, say, here, I have been advised that operating this appliance, fill it in, at a level of CO is inadvisable and dangerous. If I choose to put the appliance back in service, I do so at my own risk and indemnify the said auditor who did the test. Please sign this. She said, I'm not signing it. I said, okay. I put refuse to sign. I put it up here and I take a picture of her and then I sent her a copy of it. She said, you can't do that. Oh, ma'am, you signed permission for me to take pictures in your house. I'm taking a picture. She threw me out. But, you know, I mean, somebody like that, stupid. She doesn't realize that I'm looking out for her health.
Mm-hmm.
And what if she had a bunch of people over and cooking 5 turkeys and they'll wind up with low-level carbon monoxide poisoning? One of the reasons that people, you ever see people fall asleep after Thanksgiving dinner? They say, well, they're full. That's the tryptophan in the turkey. That's probably also the carbon monoxide that you pumped into the house from the kitchen. Okay, so that's what you do there. So actually, where am I? Okay, so
Unit 9.
I jumped down to Unit 9, and Unit 9 said, gated item, compare the measured item to the proper ANSI action standard. Explain procedure for CO testing on one other base load fossil fuel appliance. A base load fossil fuel appliance might be an unvented heater. It might be a fire. You said you've seen a gas fireplace that's unvented in the wall. Have you ever seen a vent or a vented fireplace? If it's an unvented fireplace or an unvented kerosene space heater, you just stand 3 feet away and you look at your CO detector. And if it says 9 or above, it fails. If it's a vented fireplace, you go outside and stick your combustion analyzer in the vent, and it's got 25 as the limit. If it's a burner, a cooktop, it's 25 as the limit with your wand 12 inches above the flame. If it's a gas dryer. If it's a gas dryer, it's 100 parts per million as measured in the vent outside, because it's venting gas fumes along with dryer, venting the dryer. Okay, so we are at essentially building ventilation. I did this, but we're at blower door testing. Did you guys?
You're supposed to jump down to 9.
Well, you weren't okay. You want me to finish the rest of that?
It doesn't matter.
We'll finish the rest of that. I'm going to assume you guys can do a blower door test, but I'm going to show you the other tests you have to do in the blower door. You can do a blower door. Okay. All right. So when would you? Let's go back up here. When would you do a pressurize instead of depressurize?
If
If there's a radon detector in the home.
or any chemicals in the garage, or
If you have an attached garage.
any
I would
time there's
pressure-
an attack.
Any attached garage, because, yeah, well, a garage is going to contain chemicals. What if they park their car in the garage? You know, giving off CO. We don't want to change. We don't want any of those fumes from the garage to come in the house. If you have an open sump pit, you can suck swamp gas out. I'm going to pressurize. If you have vermiculite insulation in the attic, or a lot of mold up in the attic, I didn't see any mold up there. I didn't see any vermiculite either, but any type of extra envelope contaminant. If you have a radon fan, do not depressurize. You're going to suck radon into the house. So you pressurize to avoid bringing extra envelope contaminants in. If you have intra-envelope contaminants, like what you were talking about, like mold in here, or asbestos duct insulation inside the envelope, or lead paint dust on the windowsills, no blower door until that is taken care of. You want to eliminate all those contaminants. What do you do to pressurize the house?
Turn the fan around.
Turn the fan around. Okay. What I would have to do is there's solid fuel appliances. There is a wood stove and there's a pellet stove. You've got to make sure that you do not have any burning embers, and make sure that all the dampers are closed on the solid fuel appliances. What do you do if it's a wood burning fireplace and it's open firebox?
You close the flue.
Close the damper and make sure that what if there's ashes laying there, old ashes?
You
What do you-
take newspaper and you put water on it.
Wet newspaper over the ashes. Don't bother to, what
I
if they
did that by
take?
accident, May, and
Pull the,
we caught it right away, but so it wasn't too bad. But I was like, Dave, that's terrible. Dave would be mad.
Yeah, especially a white carpet and black soot
Sand
sand.
hardwood, but it still is like embarrassing. It was this fucking
Oh, sure.
little shit.
Because was the damper open or closed?
No, that was. What do you mean? No, that was closed. It was just some
I thought you
loose
said,
ash.
oh, ashes. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you still, that was pulled into the house by air coming through the
No, there
damper.
was just ashes kind of just relaxing.
How did the blower door make the ashes come out?
It was just loose right in there.
I guess the damper wasn't tight.
The damper wasn't tight.
Okay.
It's probably
The
old.
some air had to move that out. And it was coming from, even though the damper was closed,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, it pulled the ashes out. Okay, you can set up, you can basically run, you know how to take a baseline? You learn the baseline, you guys take a baseline? Okay, fine, you know how to do that. The bias feature on the manometer. Do you know how to use a pressure pan? Okay, do you know how to use